Okay. So I am, as you can see, not at my home. I'm on work trip, and so had some time though to do this video. And it's hopefully not going to be too long. I try to stay pretty short, but you know things can change. Anyways, what's prompted this video is the recent, you could call them protests or even demonstrations of college students on different college campuses. And what's interesting is the nature of the protests, right? I've listened to some podcasts about the incendiary nature and almost the violent nature of these protests and also the hateful nature, especially towards Jews. And I know the term anti Semitism gets used a lot, and I think maybe a little too loosely, but it seems like there's something to seriously consider when it comes to allegations by other Jews, based on what I've heard. And I don't need to go into a lot of detail. You can research the information yourself. But the reason why I bring this up is to go back to a post or vlog that I had. I don't know how long ago I wrote it, but it was, or recorded it, but it was um, maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, talking about, oh no, it had to be around October 7th, because I was talking about what happened in Israel. And I mentioned how the ideology that spurred Hamas and the Palestinians to attack Israel in the way they did is um, embedded in the ideology that is taught in the universities. And now you can see that. You can see that Black Lives Matter and that movement that was in 2020, it's still there, but it's not as pronounced. The same framework undergirding that philosophy is manifesting itself in this free Palestine philosophy, um, which is, I mean, you can have, I guess, a view of freeing Palestine. I mean, that's, you're right. But what these protesters are doing, though, is they're moving beyond just freeing Palestine, which there's an argument whether Palestine's free or not, and that gets into complicated matters. But there's the issue of whether we of freeing Palestine. That's one issue, but it's the manner in which these protesters are advocating for the freedom of Palestine, which is from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Which my understanding is that that's a term of genocide, because in order for the river and the sea, in order for Palestine to be free in those areas, would mean that the Jews are wiped out. And so you can see that there is this level of violence that is baked into this ideology. And why does this matter? Well, it goes back to my earlier point, is that um, the things that happened to Israel by Hamas will not be the only thing that happens that to a Western nation. Those same the same manner of violence will be experienced by people in this country based on that same ideology. Right now, you don't see it, and I think there's some reasons for it. I think it's the degree of distraction. I think also the rule of law is somewhat there, the presence. Um, I think there people still feel that they can advocate for their position without getting violent, but that's going to change, and you will start seeing more violent actions. You will start seeing bombings, just like it happened in the '60s, where there won't be a move to changing or to responding. People won't see a change or response based on their protests, that they will up the degree of intensity. We're seeing this already at the climate protests, where they're blocking roads, they're destroying artwork, they're taking a step beyond civil disobedience to actually become like a civil disruption and violating laws in the process. And so it's just going to gradually increase. And I don't know exactly what the time bomb or the bomb will be. Sorry, poor choice of words. what the what the the trigger will be that will move it to the next kind of paradigm where we move from you know almost nonviolent or semi-violent protests, riots, to actual violence inflicted upon people. I mean, you're seeing this a little bit here and there where people of certain ethnicities or races are being targeted and attacked, but it's just going to increase where it's going to be something common, and that's because the ideology undergirding Hamas, this idea of um, Western occupation, is undergirding these ideologies on college campuses, and the same idea of the West is being evil, the West is being oppressive, is embedded, and it's they. Now, I'm not saying that Hamas and you could say like critical race theory or progressive ideology more broadly are exactly the same. Obviously, Hamas and progressive ideology clash on a lot of things, especially uh, gender and sexuality and things of that nature. And also, Hamas is advocating for Sharia law, where progressives want, I don't know, postmodern law, which is not really a thing, but they want some type of legal system of their own concoction. But the point is that within that, though, there are certain shared viewpoints, and those viewpoints are furthered, or those viewpoints are all share this view of West as being evil and attacking power structures that are oppressing. And you can see it. You can see how these pro Hamas or pro Palestinian protesters are sympathetic to Hamas at times. You can see that there are these nascent overlaps or even overt overlaps. And so basically, this video is to say that, what I've said October has been verified and it's going to get worse. This is just one of many things. We definitely know that a civil war is coming. This is not just me. This is what has been prophesied by other prophets. And the other thing to point out now, I know the other thing I wanted to say is that the big problem. So we have the violence that will eventually happen, but the big problem too is that you have a party, mainly, well, the Democrats, who are trying to play both sides, and that's also engendering the and emboldening these protesters because they're not having any consequences, and Democrats kind of know like, hey, this is getting a little crazy with the anti-Semitism, but we need their votes. So how do we do this? And they're trying to play both sides. And what's really going to manifest itself in time is that eventually they will lose control of this population that they're appealing to, and they think that they can appeal to them, and they don't realize that how crazy and nuts um, these people are and what they're willing to believe, what they're willing to do. They think that they can just win them over for votes, having no clue that eventually, it's um, they're gonna the progressive activists are going to bite the hand that feeds them, because it's not going to meet their demand. It's going to get to a point where what Democrats are willing to compromise on is going to probably have limits, because we're already seeing it's getting pretty crazy. The Democrats keep saying, "Oh, okay, transgender, okay, furry, okay." I mean, but eventually it could go to pedophilia. And will Democrats be okay with that? I don't know. It's eventually going to get to polyamory. It's going to get to things that are going to really push the norms. And it'll be interesting to see if Democrats still buy into that. My belief is that eventually they'll probably either stop, and that's when it will turn into further chaos, or they'll just invite him in fully, and nurturing that ideology, that it will just seep in. Um, it'll be more widely accepted into the broader culture, and they'll just demand more and more, and it just won't end. And so, either way, the Democrats are in a hard place, between a rock and a hard place, and they've done that because they've appealed to this crowd who has an insatiable appetite for revolution, and revolution means also the overthrow of the system as we know it, which means Democrats will be out of power. So they don't realize what they're doing, and so there's that kind of those two components, that there's going to be violence, and it will happen. I don't know when. I think probably social media and entertainment and things like that has kind of been cathartic source, and so people are able to purge that, or these protests are able to purge without getting violent. But eventually, that's going to dry up. Eventually, I mean, the economy will sag and will decline, and the things that we used to do won't be there, and so there'll be more angst and frustration. But at the same time, either concurrently or consecutively, is that the Democrats are going to kind of raise up a wild beast by pandering to these people. They're going to embolden them to such a point where the demands will be probably too great that it will be unable. They'll be unable to be contained, and we'll see calamity that way as well. So share this just to get people aware of what's happening. We're no longer um, living the lives we used to live. We're on eggshells, and we're in a complex system that, while there are many layers to that system, eventually, as the hubs break down and the big hubs break down, there'll start to be massive collapse, and it'll be a cascading effect. So, the time to repent, of us said, is now, and pay attention, be aware of what's going on. These things shouldn't just be ignored. They definitely will have serious consequences in the future.